front end here, and is Wendy doing pointer here? By chance, I haven't seen her, but okay, she would. Okay. There are two persons who have embarked on teaching a new class this on Wednesdays that has already begun, and they've had a good turnout, I think. But just to let you know that it's a class called Create, Connecting with God Through Art. And here's Heidi, who's one of those teachers. And I just want to say that they've had between 5 and 13 people during that time. This is well, that's what Wendy has on her notes. And you will enjoy this class. And the reason I know this is I have a pastor's Bible class in the next door room, and there's a lot of energy coming out of Heidi and Wendy's class. So check out the offerings on Wednesday. Basically, we're recovering Wednesdays as church. Never would have seen this coming in the course of my ministry, but all things come around, and that's what's come around here at First United Methodist Church. There's something for people of all ages. Did anybody happen to catch the Facebook Live that was just shown about half an hour ago from our front lawn? I know Mark and Diane Thompson had theirs up, their name came up. But we had a Bible kickball event out here, which was for the older elementary. So we're really mixing things up here, making it interesting so that people are engaged in whatever it is that we're doing at First United Methodist. So we're going to be engaged in worship as well. I want to show you a couple of slides of things that happened. If you weren't here last week, we had a whole rail full of prayer shawls. And it's pretty amazing, pretty remarkable ministry that we've got going there. A lot of people do this. It's amazing the amount of prayer shawls that go out and are used by people, and they're truly appreciated. If you need one for yourself or for someone else, to know that you are being prayed for and that love and prayers have gone into the making of these, just see me after worship. Now the rest of these pictures have to do with an event that was held yesterday. It's the first, this one is from this past week when you see the persons who were involved in the choosing of tile that will be on the water wall that's currently being constructed in the courtyard. This is a memorial, so the funds for this come as a gift beyond our church budget, so there are no church funds being used for this, and it's going to be a memorial to the Mutz family. I'm getting more and more excited as this feature begins to develop. It will have brickwork and stone coping and a cross and water coming down the wall into a pool that then empties into another pool. It's pretty elaborate. So it's even suitable for baptism. So I'm calling it the water, wall, and baptistry. So we'll have a distinction of one of the few United Methodist churches that has such a baptistry. I'm pleased for that. Now, these other pictures are something that happened yesterday. It was the first Ben's Stockings of Hope fun run. And there were, well, let's just say there were over 50 people there, and over 45 walkers who registered once they got there. This is as they're taking off down Buchanan. Just go ahead and run through these, and I'll try to keep up with it. Wall of Green. Somehow that seems suitable for Maryville. There were even canines who participated. And this is a dark picture, but these were some of the winners. The Loomis kids had won an award for the way that they dressed for this Silly Socks and Hats event. Speaking of silly socks, that fellow on the left had a pair just like that at home. I know. And I really did make the walk, but that is, you know you're in Maryville when you can find a place to sit down along the sidewalk. So there you go. Anyway, it may seem when we get into it that we have an actual interruption. We're going to be interrupting our program of worship, if you will, for a feature. You'll know it when it comes around. But let's at this time prepare ourselves for worship, and please stand as the light of Christ is brought in.
stand as we sing, God of the Sparrow, God of the Whale. We gather today seeking light to break through the darkness that creeps into the world. God is our light and our salvation. Whom shall we fear? Our strength at times fails us. Do we have what it takes to face life's challenges? God is the stronghold of our lives. On whom or what shall we be afraid? We search for beauty to lift our spirits. We open our eyes to behold the beauty of God. We have come to worship and seek wisdom, to find shelter and help amid life's storms. May God lift us up from our doubts and fears, granting us confidence and courage as we attend God's Spirit. You come to the right place to get the answers.
There are plenty of questions to life. Just yesterday, I and Michelle attended a memorial service for Patrick O'Reilly. There are several persons who have died recently, and we remember two in our prayers this past Sunday, but this Sunday, we remember Patrick O'Reilly. You may have seen him around town in his various jobs. He was an elected official once upon a time for several years, but he also was key to the regular functioning of the AAB that meets on Monday evenings here at First United Methodist Church and the accompanying Al-Anon meeting. Patrick took his life earlier, about a week ago, and so that was very much a part of his service. And I guess I would just, taking the time at this point in our service, include him and his family in our prayers, really in thanksgiving. One of his nieces stood up to speak at the outset of the service, actually before the Mass began. Patrick was Catholic, as you might expect with a name like Patrick O'Reilly. And he was a man who was full of life. He also had struggled and valiantly fought against the ravages of bipolar disorder through much of his life. And the accompanying things, I would say, addictive behavior sometimes is a means of self-medicating for that. And so both of those struggles he valiantly dealt with throughout much of his life. He brought much good to this community and to the lives of folks. There's so much silence that often has attended persons who have taken their own lives, and part of that is understandable. You don't just trot out all the information that you know, but in this case, Patrick used his life so much for the good of others that the family was very free in sharing that. And so I share that with you. If you know of anyone who struggles with such things, there are persons, those among us who struggle with those factors that sometimes are identifiers of people who are vulnerable to such things. Mental health is essentially the same as physical health in the sense that you just got to deal with what you've got to deal with. It's just that we're a long time coming to the realization, I think, as a culture, that we need to help one another face the challenges that come with such things. So, see a counselor, talk to your pastor, share it among your family members, but we'll include Patrick in our prayers, and certainly his family and friends. Also, Frances Lorraine Christie, that's Teresa Jacoby's mother. Speaking of another valiant fighter, there's something about this generation, I think. She, after a long struggle over the past, really several years, succumbed and died this past week. In terms of her services, the funeral services will be tomorrow at 2:30 at the First Christian Church in King City. There's a time of visitation ahead of that at the First Christian Church in King City. Today, friends may call from 2:30 to 6 at the Robertson Funeral Home in King City. And Christian sympathy to Annette Farman at the death of her brother David. Annette was for several years the secretary here at the church, and so prayers for her and her family as well. Now, as we go through our litany of prayer, I would invite you to respond to me, Lord, hear our prayer, after each intercession. God, we adore you. You, the one who have brought this magnificent creation into being and placed us within it, giving us the senses and the sense to appreciate it and to use it for good. Lord, in your love and faithfulness, hear our prayer. And oh God, as we come together this day, we give you thanks for our community in which you have provided leadership that provides for security, that provides for our well-being, that provides for really benefits beyond what we might expect in forms of recreation and leisure, for schools, for hospital facilities, for the persons who staff these places, who are our teachers and our nurses and our doctors and our administrators. Lord, in your love and faithfulness. And we pray for Christians around the world and people of whatever faith, that indeed goodwill might reign throughout the earth, that your kingdom might be a kingdom in which we see ourselves as sisters and brothers joined together, looking to one another's need, celebrating one another's joys, and sharing in one another's griefs. Lord, in your love and faithfulness.
And you've heard the names of several persons who have died this past week, and we pray a special prayer for their families, giving thanks for their lives and giving thanks for their caregivers. We pray for persons who are hospitalized or receiving medical care. Lord, in your love and faithfulness. And for this congregation, as we seek to join together in being a positive force of good within this community and our world, help us to deal with our own individual struggles and to be there one for another, to lift our spirits. May your spirit, the spirit of love, be underneath it all and through it all and leading us all. O Lord, in your love and faithfulness, and for the silent prayers of our own hearts that we lift at this time. Lord, in your love and faithfulness. And now hear this, the prayer that you taught the disciples, praying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever.
things that go with game. Things that go with. So I'm going to pull out an object from my secret bag. And you guys together are going to say what goes with that object. Okay? Let's see. We'll start with an easy one. Peanut butter. What goes with it? Jelly. Oh, you guys are good at games. Okay, let's do a little bit harder one. How about hammer? Nail. Wow, you guys are smart. Holy moly, this school thing is working for you guys. Okay, let's try. Ooh, hard one. Salt. Well, I'm impressed. Well, I was just wondering, I was reading the Bible the other day, and I saw that two things went together in the Bible. So I was going to see if you could guess what it is. So, loving Jesus goes together with, I just read that, didn't you? Share it with us. Actions. Loving Jesus. Now let's think about this for a second. Loving Jesus goes together with our actions. So I'm going to give you a little quiz. So if we love Jesus, would having the action of lying to our parents, would that be showing the love of Jesus? No. No way. How about, are you saying being on time? That one's making me feel guilty at the moment. We'll skip that one as I stuck in the back a couple minutes after church began. Let's see, how about taking something that doesn't belong to you? No. Does that show the love of Jesus in your actions? No, it doesn't. How about saying mean and hurtful things to someone? No, that's not showing the love of Jesus. So whoever would want to, can we pass the microphone around? And can we share an action that shows our love of Jesus? Want to start? Okay.
Helping your parents with things that have to happen around the house.
Oh my goodness, that's a good one. Good deal.
Tucking your little brother or sister in when it's time to go to sleep.
Oh, that is precious. That really shows the love of Jesus. And you just forgot it. Anyone else?
Making a card for someone.
Making a card for someone. Sweet.
Sharing your toys.
Sharing your toys. Remember?
Giving hugs to other people to cheer them up.
I love it. And
Oh.
you're a good hugger, says Mrs. Tomrat.
Volunteer to eat all the cookies.
Oh, Aisha, what a good boy you are. You wouldn't want those cookies to go to waste, so someone's got to step up.
I love cookies.
But you really show the love of Jesus with your appetite.
Helping someone up when they fall down.
Oh, help someone up when they fall down. That's really sweet, babe.
Saying hi to a new girl when she has no friends.
That's really sweet. Did you guys hear that? Saying hi to someone else who is new to your school or our church.
Smiling.
Oh, smiling. That is a great way to show the love of Jesus. Okay, last one. Okay.
Sitting by someone at lunch as they're sitting by themselves.
I think we're doing something right here, folks. I really do. You guys are really, really sweet, and you share the love of Jesus in everything that you do. We want to thank you for being such good kids and really showing the love of Jesus. I was wondering if any of you would like to pray today. Do you want to pray, Hans? No, you're not Hans. You're Hans. You're Hans's older brother. What's your name again? Dwight. Dwight. I'm so sorry. Dwight, will you lead us in prayer? Okay, here you go.
Thank you, God, for the good talks, and we thank you.
That's wonderful. Everyone say, Amen. Elijah, would you give these to her?
Cookies.
Wait, before we go, I need Ashlyn and Maddie to stay hanging out right here. So I have Ashlyn. Maddie already escaped. Oh, she's hiding out. Okay. Well, so one of the things we like to do is we like to give out our Bibles to our third graders, and Ashlyn here is one of our third graders. So today is your day, Ashlyn. So making you stand up here in front of everybody and receive one of our Bibles so that you can read about how you can share your actions and make sure that they do what Jesus wants us to do. So there you go, Miss Ashlyn. And now, you want to come down, Maddie, or you just want to bring it to you? Okay, I'm sorry to embarrass you in front of like everybody. So here you go, Miss Maddie. This Bible is for you from our church. And we want you to read it and love it and enjoy it. So there you go, Miss Maddie. And I'm passing this again. Here we go.
At some point, you will get to hear Pastor Scott, promise. As you may or may not have noticed, the Boy Scouts are setting up to sell popcorn, and I begged Pastor Scott for the opportunity to let you know exactly what the popcorn does. Because you see it, and you know that it's the Boy Scout thing, but what does it go for? You know, what are you buying? Because as you may or may not have noticed, it is not cheap popcorn. It's a good donation. And let me tell you what the donation goes for. The donation is, and it does say it on the box, which I think is awesome, that 73% of the cost of that, and Pastor Scott has his right there, 73% of it is, goes back to scouting in some form. It's not, Pastor Scott will need another bag later. But it goes back into scouting. And I just wanted, which I think is a pretty high percentage compared to some of the other fundraising things that are out there. And I just wanted to tell you that 36% of the cost of what you're getting actually goes to the boys themselves. And what that does is that helps them pay for their Boy Scout camp that they go to for a week every summer. And in that Scout camp for the week, they earn merit badges. So they are earning the things that, you know, that they're doing in Boy Scouts. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you what you are supporting when you buy a bag, and to let you know that they will be set up after church too. But if you know, if you're working on a bag at home, you're not done yet, and you're not ready for your next bag or something, in 2 weeks they will be set up again, and it will be the other 3 boys in our congregation that is selling popcorn. So we have 6 total, so 3 this week and 3 in 2 weeks. So it'll be when communion is. So anyway, just if you're thinking about it, you will have another opportunity. But I just thought I would give a shout to the 2 boys that did go to Boy Scout camp this summer, and just let them tell you maybe what they did or what the best part of camp was. Jonah? He did not know about this previous, so hopefully we'll see how well they wing it.
For me, the best part of Scout camp was the food.
Same.
What did you do? You don't have to get back up here.
So my favorite class was art and pottery.
My favorite class was crime prevention.
So, now this is really putting on the spot, I realize that. But you left the bag over there, Chris. The reason I opened that bag is somebody said, oh, is that bag for a taste test? So I'm going to send that back with you when you staff the table. And if people want to taste, they can have some. You can even have some as workers. But now the Scout motto is be prepared. So join me in the Scout call. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. No hesitation there. And I heard some others out here. Thank you, guys. But it's awfully hard to steal a bit out of that bag. It's pretty critical. Help yourselves. Yeah. It was. So, we've been going in something of a series. Chris started it out. It was basically experiencing faith and community, and we're using various scriptures toward that end. I actually had intended to use the sermon title, Living Out Our Faith, and as soon as you hear the scripture, you'll get that, I think. It's James chapter 3 going into James chapter 4. But actually, the one that I settled on was after hearing of it, since I noticed it wasn't in the bulletin itself, I went with it, and I'm calling it evidence-based faith. Evidence-based faith. That's because I happened to listen to the People's Pharmacy yesterday. Here's another shameless commercial. Actually, I find this very helpful with health tips and information. It comes on at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I don't want to change the clock alarm every day, so 6 o'clock on Saturday morning, I got to listen to this. But evidence-based medicine. You might credit evidence-based medicine for the fact that we're not bleeding one another as a matter of our course of therapy. That was done a couple hundred years ago, but we know that that doesn't really have the intended effect. All right, you follow me here? But so much of our lives is based upon just whatever we're raised with. You know, it's called various things, but even our faith is that way. And with the modern age, I think we've adopted something of a critical mindset with regard to that I welcome. You don't want to just end up there. Life isn't all about the analysis. It's not about the criticism. Finally, it's to be lived. And the whole point of this is faith. But we examine that to see how we're doing. You know, the anthem that we heard today, was I faithful? Was I faithful? Actually, I love that thought. I'm imagining somebody toward the end of their life having at least the humility to think that there might be times when they were not faithful. Already, I don't go around, can you brag about your unfaithfulness? No, I don't think you can do that. Although I think some people might be prone to. But no, the matter of faithfulness, we all fall short and we know that. It's not to dwell in that. It's not to dwell in that sense of inadequacy or shame. And the week that I wasn't preaching, a couple of weeks ago when I was over at Cornell baptizing this 50-year-old and 60-year-old man, welcoming 8 new members into that congregation, I will leave the congregation here to do something like that. But while Chris was preaching it, really, he spoke to that in his first sermon, you know, the idea of, you know, am I adequate to what I'm doing? We get all these messages coming our way saying we're not. Well, the main message that God wants us to hear is that you are in the image of God. That's how God has created you. And God has created you more than adequately. Open yourself to the way that God's Spirit will help complete those parts of your life that don't seem complete, or where that's necessary. But today, this evidence-based, I think it has to do with the actions have to accompany the intent. A couple of weeks ago, the reading from James for the day was, do
Do not just be hearers of the word, but be doers. In fact, that was the reason for this midweek pastor's Bible study, studying the book of James. Somebody said, I wonder what Martin Luther had against the book of James. If you know anything about Martin Luther and know about anything about the Reformation, basically his theme was not works, but faith. And James says, show me your faith without works, and I'll show you my faith with works. And this isn't to put down Martin Luther's movement or his thoughts or his faith, because in fact, he stepped out in faith to do amazingly good things for the poor of his day. Wasn't flawless, but he did put works behind his faith. It's just a natural order. It's not an either or. It's a both and. It's a both and. And that's what James has to say. So here in the letter of James, beginning with James chapter 3, verse 13, do you want to be counted wise to build a reputation for wisdom? Okay, if you do, here's the answer. Thank you, Della. Here's the answer. Here's what you do. Live well. Live wisely. Live humbly. It's the way you live, not the way you talk, that counts. If you were here last week for the Spirit and Truth Gospel Choir, that tradition, that black church tradition has a way of saying, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. That's the same message. Mean-spirited ambition isn't wisdom, and there's plenty of mean-spirited ambition in our world. Boasting that you are wise isn't wisdom. Twisting the truth to make yourself sound wise isn't wisdom. It's the furthest thing from wisdom. It's animal cunning, devilish conniving. Whenever you're trying to look better than others or get the better of others, things fall apart and everyone ends up at the other's throats. Real wisdom, God's wisdom, begins with a holy fire and is characterized by getting along with others. It is gentle and reasonable, overflowing with mercy and blessings. Not hot one day and cold the next, not two-faced. You can develop a healthy, robust community that lives right with God and enjoy its results only if you do the hard work of getting along with each other, treating each other with dignity and honor. Where do you think all these appalling wars and quarrels come from? Do you think they just happen? Think again. They come about because you want your own way and fight for it deep inside yourselves. You lust for what you don't have and are willing to kill together. You want what isn't yours and will risk violence to get your hands on it. You wouldn't think of just asking God for it, would you? And why not? Because you know you'd be asking for what you have no right to. You're spoiled children, each one in your own way. Wow. Shall we leave it there? I don't know. That's not a real out thought. Spoiled children, one in your own way. Well, I'm not here to harangue you. But in fact, I think you could very easily make the case that our age and our culture is pretty spoiled. And wherever you fit in that culture and time, go ahead and apply it. I can apply it in mine. It's natural, it's human. So how do you get beyond those urges? Well, first of all, you find a community that helps you to be a better person. The Scouts, again, they didn't even hesitate when they stated the Scout law. I didn't hesitate. I heard some other people stating it back here who had been Scouts. There are groups that are dedicated to building character. Now, there are some groups that's not their sole purpose. I'm talking now about many athletic teams that do that same sort of thing. You learn teamwork, you learn how to recognize the gifts that one another brings for the team. But that's just the means to the end for that group. But that's not just a means to the end for the coach. And that's not the desire of the parents. Well, except some of those parents that are on the sidelines and everybody gets embarrassed to see they come into action. But it's built into our culture in some ways, but it's a sub-thing. but within scouting organizations, within 4-H, these groups really work to build character. Within church, that's a significant part of what we're about. And I dare think that we can grow from one another and really help each other be a better person. But it doesn't just happen. And it certainly doesn't happen in the interconnected social media world in which we live today. Because it's out there. You should never use a word without honesty. I just said it is out there. Well, what is it? Well, everything. Okay? Everything has not been out there the way it is today. And so the conversations that have to do with the Me Too movement and so forth, a movement which, by the way, I support, but it's also, therefore, out there. The positive part of that is now you can deal with it. It's always been there. Now it's just uncovered, revealed, if you will. But that means our kids are exposed, and I think that's the proper word to use, are exposed to things that just nobody should have to be exposed to at a certain age until you've got something of the experience behind you to be able to, something like that. So how do you counter that? Well, I'm telling you, here's one place where you can go. You know, I went around and did a Facebook Live this morning already. I love doing that thing now that I've been taught that toy on my phone. So I saw they were playing Bible kickball. I don't know if that's the exact name, but basically there's a Bible verse. You set up a kickball field that was done out here on the North Lawn, and if you want to, you can see it. It's posted on our Facebook. You're permitted to do that if you want. Anyway, here is Mark Hendricks out there ready to pitch, but he doesn't pitch until one of the persons who's on the answering team, the receiving team, ready to kick, gives the right answer to the Bible question. It was great. Well, they answered every question right while I was there, so that team was pretty amazing. And they didn't cut any slack. Mark actually caught, he didn't let him get by with anything. He caught the ball that came his way, so that person was out, and then he threw it to third base, and that person was out. So, you know, it wasn't like they dummied this game down in the least. You can have fun with this at whatever level you need to. But where are you getting it? Now, you could say, I'm preaching to the choir. You're here, right? Hope you come back. But the thing is, you need to be intentional about this. And a community of faith at church is one of those places where it happens. So, what's it supposed to be like? I'm going to close with this scripture. This comes from Mark chapter 9, verses 30 to 37. Again, an assigned one. It picks up where we left off last week when we considered that not only do we need leadership in our world, maybe there's an art of followership that we have. And if we're followers of Christ, here again is where we can learn what that's about. Leaving there, they went through Galilee. Jesus didn't want anyone to know their whereabouts, for he wanted to teach his disciples. He told them, the Son of Man is about to be betrayed by some people who want nothing to do with God. They will murder him. 3 days after his murder, he will rise alive. They didn't know what he was talking about, but were afraid to ask him about it. They came to Capernaum. When he was safe at home, he asked them, what were you discussing on the road? The silence was deafening. It sounds like some classes I've been in, right? On both sides. They had been arguing with one another over who among them was greatest. Okay, now we're kind of going back to James here, bragging and all that stuff. He sat down and summoned the 12. See, so you want first place, then take the last place, the servant of all. This is like counter-indicated logic. You know, if you want first place, you know, end up on top. No, Jesus said, serve others. Imagine that. By being a servant, you're actually showing leadership. Okay? He put a child in the middle of the room. Then, cradling the little one in his arms, he said, whoever embraces one of these children as I do, embraces me. And far more than me, God who sent me. I'm glad that we can see the face of God in the face of a child. Can you see that this morning? If we could simply recognize the goodness that's there for us to claim without having to join into the struggle as the world basically would have us to do, but to engage in one another in that those loving acts that Marty shared with our children, that they already knew about. Imagine that. Well, God, I do pray that the words of my mouth and meditation of our hearts is accepted, received, and transforms us. In your name and in your sight we pray. Amen. Now, as Christine comes up and we prepare to sing our final song, we're doing our offering a little bit differently this week as we did last week. I think we've got it down, although we're still taking suggestions on how to improve this. As we leave the sanctuary, you're invited to place your opportunity sheet, that's a little tear-off section, with any information you care to share, any prayers that you want to include that we'll then share around with our prayer team and pray about in our chapel each week. You can sign up for opportunities there. That's an act of offering yourself for service after you leave the sanctuary. That's what we're going to be doing in just a little bit. But also, you'll have a special opportunity for service today, as at 2 o'clock, we're going to have, I shouldn't have had you come up soon, Christine. At 2 o'clock, we'll have a concert, and it's going to be a benefit concert for Lydia Patterson Institute, which is a high school. You've heard about it if you've come here for any length of time, at the border between El Paso and Ciudad Juarez. And here's just a 3-minute video that tells you something about that school.
First of all, my mom had to pay to our neighbor because the part where I live is like very dangerous. And then in the morning when it's like dark, my neighbor is the one who walks with me. I take the rotera, and then I have to cross like 2 streets to get to the border, and then I cross the border.
About 80% of our student population lives in Juarez. Some of them migrate to Juarez so that they can have an opportunity to go to a school where they can learn English. So the school was founded many years ago, 1913. Lydia Patterson was designed to help English language learners in the Segundo Barrio, which is one of the lowest income neighborhoods in the country, by laywomen in the United Methodist Church. Our main focus is to make sure that these students come into this school, this sanctuary for them, to learn the language. On top of that, our job is to make sure that they're taught at high levels, that there is an acculturation process, and that when they leave this school, they become productive citizens either here in the States or in Mexico.
The students and the professors here have more interaction with each other, and it's more of a family communication type.
Over there, it's a different kind of education process, and here you experience more of family and.
I consider that we are a family, and then the majority of the times when I need something, I can ask my teachers, my principal, and my classmates, and they will help me.
We began to integrate technology as a real strong focus because our school felt that this is where we need to move. So these students that maybe don't have access to this kind of technology are now accessing, tablets and smart boards and, the things that they need to be successful. One of the next phases is the chapel. Dr. Danda has this vision for all of our students to be able to worship together under one roof. That's really important.
Having a relationship with God for me is very important, and lay ministry helps me have a spiritual growth.
I'm a big believer of God because I think that all the things that I have right now is because of Him, because He has a plan for me. I think God this always with me?
We're often asked, do you have a line of students waiting to come in? The line of students that we have waiting to come in are students who can't afford to come here. If we provided free education, this place would be packed. Through help of individuals and churches, we're able to provide an education to a student who otherwise wouldn't get one, because life is very different in Juarez and Mexico. So many of the students that we get here are the students who otherwise would not be going to school. They would decide, I just need to go to work and provide for my family. And we're able to help them focus on, finish school, go to college, go to university, and then you'll see that your life and the life of your family will be better.
Please stand as we prepare to go out. I'd like to see you back here too.
Before you go forth, there's a couple things. If you're like college age, okay, you don't have to be in college, but if you're kind of that age, post-high school, and want to have lunch, we've got it prepared downstairs. There's Sloppy Joe's, there's other stuff. So I'm looking at one set row back here. You might be interested in this. Come on down for food. But also, we need your help. We need about 80 chairs or more to take from downstairs up into the gathering space.